The camera highlights in the world of sports.
Dapper Paul Runyan of White Plains, New York, tees off in the 36-hole final of the PGA Championship at Shawnee on the Delaware. Slammin' Sammy Snead of West Virginia. Arriving at the green of the short fifth hole, Snead lines up a 6-foot putt. His ball misses the cup and Runyan is stymied. To have the hole, he must sink this putt, but how? After much thought, Runyan decides to use a niblick. The crowd is tense. So is Runyan, for that matter, but watch. Runyan, 5 up at the end of the morning round, tees off in the final 18. A cool, deliberate sharpshooter whose peculiar form makes his performance all the more amazing. Outdriven 30 and 40 yards by the more powerful Snead, Runyan's accuracy with short woods, irons, and particularly his putter proves the old golfing axiom that they don't pay off on the drives. Arriving at the 25th, Runyan's short pitch to the green stops within goodly putting distance of the cup. And the diminutive New York pro has the coveted PGA crown within his grasp. And there it is. The $1,000 putt that brings Paul Runyan the PGA title for the second time in his golfing career.
Hi, I'm Sam Snead. In regards to Paul Runyan, he was known as Little Poison. Paul wasn't a big guy by any means. He didn't hit the ball very far, but oh, what a short game he had, second to none. I had the pleasure of playing Paul in the PGA Championship, and I'd drive him some holes almost 100 yards. But, you know, the old saying is, you drive for show and putt for dough. So that's what happened. He killed me on the green. I never saw a man had the touch, or any better touch than Paul Runyan.
Like another good birdie putt.
That did turn out a little better than expected. Glenn, I think you better remove the flag, if you will, please.
Okay.
Gee, that turned out rather nicely.
Sure did. Nice birdie, Paul.
Good morning, folks. I'm Paul Runyan. Welcome to La Quinta and another beautiful day in the desert. We're going to discuss 2 of the shots to lower scoring, putting and chipping. Since we're here, let's get on with the business at hand. Glenn, please give me 2 clubs and my putter. I want the clubs for props. What I'm doing now is preparing one of the best putting instructors you can have. This is a simple device that makes it much more practical and easy to do the things that I feel are so important in the art of putting. Putting is one of the shots in golf that must be methodized. You must not leave it to the whims of the individual. To begin with, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. First, let's place the hands on the club in such a way as to minimize wrist motion. We want the lower hand to be 45 degrees back of vertical and the upper hand to be 45 degrees in front of vertical. We want the grip equal in both hands. We want the eyes to be directly over the line through the ball, but not over the ball itself, because we cannot hit the middle of the ball. We can only hit the back side of it. Thus, the back side of the ball needs to be a fraction to the left of the suspension point being the clavicle or the nape of neck. That wants to be even with the back side of the ball, so you will hit the ball at the bottom of the arc of the swing. Grip the club firmly enough that as you swing it backward and forward entirely with the arms, that the momentum of the club will not cock the wrist. We do not want wrist motion in it. Once we have gotten this far in the particulars, the next point of importance is to make a stroke that is entirely with the arms, with no movement in the body, no movement in the wrists. Stroke the ball rhythmically and smoothly with the arms. The avoidance of three putting is dependent upon great distance control. But the important part in all of this, once you're accustomed to striking the ball with a one-lever stroke, your distance control is much more accurate because you can control the speed of any action with one motion better than you can with two or with three. And at the same time, two movements destroys the accuracy of the stroke to a very great degree. We want to remember that we still have to develop a rhythm in the stroke. It has to have an accelerating motion as it goes through. We're trying our dead level best to catch the ball at the very bottom of the arc of the swing so that you roll the ball in a flywheel action, that it is not going to turn. Now let's deal with the putter. If I put my face of my putter down open, even if I strike the ball with the most perfect path, the ball will spin crazily offline to the right. Or you may have it closed at right angle all the time. And that causes the balls to spew all over the place. Most frequently, the one that they don't recognize is that they'll have their left hand farther forward than their right is back, and that makes the face of the club fly open as they stroke. Or conversely, if they've got their right farther back than their left is forward, that will cause the face during the stroke to close. But at any rate, we want the face of the club to stay at right angle and the hands be placed in such a way as to keep the face at right angle as it swings back and forth. We do not want any motion in it as it swings, or we don't want it to be at variance with right angle in the address position. May I have a ball, please? In this case, I'm going to hit this ball with the stroke correct, but the face of my club initially is a little open. And as a result, even though the swing goes straight through there, the ball will hit the right-hand side. Then it's a matter of rhythm and speed to contain the stroke accurately and still produce a distance that's in keeping with the distance you want the ball to go. For example, if I'm trying to make the putt in one, direction is far more important than distance, as long as you understand the never up, never in theory. When you are back sufficiently far that one putts are not reasonable, but the avoidance of three is the thing that you're after, then distance becomes much more important. And in this respect, I like to have a field in which we're trying to stop the ball. If I'm 20 feet from the hole, I'm satisfied to stop the ball anywhere in a 2-foot circle. Because if it stops in the 2-foot circle, the longest putt I can have is 1 foot. If I'm 30 feet away, I allow a 3-foot circle, so that the 18-inch putt is the longest. At 40 feet, a 4-foot circle. At 50 feet or over, a 5-foot circle. Because we should have enough skill in our touch to keep a large percentage of your putts within a 5-foot radius. Incidentally, we don't want the students to use this prop too much, because this can become a baby blanket. They get to depend on it too much. After they've done this a while, I ask them to take the props away and then try to set up as accurately the same way. We're still going to go through that same procedure with the feet at right angle to the line, the face of the club at right angle to the line. Then if the body is right and the spine is at right angle, the swing will go parallel. It's an automatic thing. If you've got it facing right angle and you make the stroke correctly, you'll have a fair degree of success. I wish I could say that this is going to make the student make all the putts. All it's going to do is make them make a bigger percentage of them. They're going to be a better putter on their good days, and they're going to be a less bad putter on their bad days. Methodization is a must. This setup is designed to dramatize some very, very important putting principles, if you will. If a person's touch is good enough that he can pass the hole consistently without passing it so far that he would three-putt, then he must pass the hole. In other words, uses the never up, never in principle. In this case, I'm gripping the club sufficiently firmly, however, that my wrists will not get into play. And I want this ball to pass the hole somewhere between 6 and 12 inches, because it has been tested and proven that that's the distance at which you'll make the highest percentage of putts. If that had have missed, it would have stopped somewhere 6 to 8 inches past the hole. Now, as we get farther back, it becomes more and more impractical to consciously try to pass the hole. From here, all I'm trying to do is to lag the ball into a 2-foot circle. In this case, my grip is a little bit tighter because I want to control a tiny bit more energy. It's true I'm going to have a longer backswing, but not a very significantly longer swing. The main touch comes in the speed with which it's going through it and the rhythm with which it's going through it. But in this case, if I stop this ball anywhere in a 2-foot circle, I've done what I set out to do. And my temperature won't go up 1 iota if I hit the ball dead in the hole and 1 inch short, because I'm not using the never up, never in principle. I'm using the lag principle. Now again, the same thing applies, but the grip has to become a little firmer because I'm going to hit the ball with a little more speed, and I don't want the momentum of the club to cock my wrist or get any play in it. But again, I'm trying now to stop it inside of a 3-foot circle, any place inside it. The stroke becomes a little longer, but mainly becomes a little faster. I want to hit the ball with a short, firm stroke that stops that ball distance-wise more accurately. Here, this is a putt where if all of the putts were this long, nobody in the world would have an average of under 2. They'd have an average of a fraction over 2, because they charge the putts too much. They can improve their putting technique by having a stroke that's a fraction longer and a fraction faster, and then try to stop the ball anywhere inside of a 3-foot circle, a 4-foot circle, or a 5-foot circle. Here, this is one of those where I'd like to stop it anywhere within a 4-foot circle. So my stroke is a tiny bit longer with a little tighter grip so that there won't be too much play, and I hit the ball with a little faster stroke. Gee, this is a pattern that pleases me a great deal, because in the ball that is holed, it was putted from about 6 feet using the never up, never in theory. And the other balls that are an unusually good pattern was putted from 20, 30, and 40 feet. And this is what I believe will be the result, maybe not quite this dramatic, but will be the result if they know where to stop the never up, never in theory and begin to use the lag theory. I think this is a very big factor in the improvement in a person's putting. Let's discuss some of the problems that we see every day on the putting green. Glenn, what causes the yips?
I don't know, Paul. I've never had them.
Oh, you lucky devil. Put us some balls here, and let's discuss what I feel about the yips. It's true that this is the most difficult of all the things to cure, because it's in the mind, and the most common cause of getting the yips is the fear of humiliation or lack of success. And the shorter the putt, the more likely the person is to have the yips. But the only thing that I can suggest to get rid of it is to work diligently on taking the hands out of the stroke, because the yips don't usually start in the body. They usually start in the hands. You get so pent up and tense that the hands do silly things. So just stroke it rhythmically with your arms, keeping the body quietly in position, and make the stroke where you're just propelling the ball along the green with a smooth stroke. You must trust the style. If you try to make something happen, it's not going to happen. You've got to have a system that will let it happen. Keep your mind at ease, keep your muscles here at ease, but keep these treacherous, jumpy hands out of the stroke. Now, another very common thing is when the balls keep squirting to the right of the hole. Now, that can happen from several causes. We can get the habit of letting our body turn a little to the right going back and not realize we've done it, and then stroke it so the ball's passing off to the right. Even if we've hit it correctly, it's going to pass to the right. That's pushed out to the right. Or we can be keeping our body in a beautiful position throughout the stroke, but I've gotten the habit of gripping the club with my right hand or my lower hand too high. The elbows are out of balance. Even though the face of the club is at right angle, as I stroke it, those arms seeking a level will open the face of the club and cause you to push it to the right. Or yet a third and least common cause, but it's not quite as damaging, is that I can be doing everything right, and as I hit the ball, my body leaning a tiny bit to the left makes the ball, as a general thing, go off to the right a tiny bit. In that one, as I lean forward, I have the success of turning a little with it and made two wrongs make a right. But if I'm leaning forward with no turn to the left, that makes you catch the ball on a descending blow, at which point the face of the club is pointing a little bit to the right of the line. Now, all of those things on the left side are exactly opposite. If I have a tendency to address the ball with the face of the club pointing to the left, even if I swing straight to it, that causes me to pull the ball off to the left of the hole. Or if I've started without realizing I've done so, with the left foot turned out so that my spine is at an angle to the left of where it should be, even if I strike the ball squarely, I'm now pulling it to the left because my body is out of position. I want to get my body to stay at right angle. Or I can have this is the third and least common cause of pulling it, but it is one it's difficult to discern. My right lower hand is in the right position and my upper hand is in the wrong position. Even if I start at right angle, my head stays still, the elbows will seek a level and the ball will go off to the left. Now we can correct all of those problems that we've discussed by doing it correctly. By going about it where your hands are equally balanced on either side of the shaft, where your feet are both at right angle across the line. Don't let one of them turn out. That'll cause you to have a tendency to pull them or have to cut them to make them go straight. Get the feet in the right position. Get the hands in the right position so that the elbows are already in balance. Then keep your blinking head still, and then stroke the ball with your arms sufficiently firmly to make the ball go 6 inches beyond the hole. Now let's do a little practice for fun and profit. And when I am practicing, I don't aim at the hole. I go over near the edge of the green someplace where the turf is usually better. It's not spike marked as badly. And I then set the ball down with a coin immediately outside so the putter will not hit it. I then go about my routine not thinking about anything excepting to hit the ball a given power each time. And if I now pay no attention to where that ball is, and I can produce the same position to the putter and the same speed, the balls will keep bumping each other. But this is the practicing I like to do. Just keep swinging it back and forth, putting the ball in exactly the same spot, getting the face of the club to line up correctly, getting my body to stay still and stroke the ball with a rhythm that will pile those balls up both directionally and distance-wise. I don't want to have to think of how I'm doing it. I want to think of just getting a rhythm to it, and if I can produce that, the balls will collect themselves both directionally and distance-wise in a very tight pattern. Once I have gotten enough practice till I feel like I can do that at several distances, then I take a different tack. I then put the balls around the hole at different distances, a little different variations in distance and a little difference in direction. They're just encircling the hole so that you get a different touch and a different alignment every time. And then I would start with this one, give it a quick read. This looks like it should go fairly straight. Again now, I'm trying to hit the ball 6 inches beyond the hole with a nice firm contact that sends the ball toward the hole with no right or left hand English. Just keep making that rhythmic stroke back and forth. I do as I make a change, take another look to see if there's a break. If this breaks at all, I think it'll break that way. But I'm going to hit it fairly straight because it looks like it might not break at all. Now that wasn't quite bold enough. That didn't hit the back of the hole quite as hard as I'd like it to do. It went in, but it didn't go in with the authority I'd like to see it do. This is where you set a goal for yourself. If I've got 10 or 15 balls around and none of them are longer than 5 feet, I'll set a goal of 13 out of the 15 made. or some such figure as that. If I make it too often, if I reach my goal too often, I've given myself a task that's too easy. So I've tightened the screws down a little bit. Here's another one of those situations, quite different from the others, where we're putting for fun and profit. But it's now inline work. It's true that the putts are a little longer and we may not make as many of them, but it's a wonderful sort of practice. Again, I'm going through that same principle. I want to get it squared up to that and then stroke it with my arms so that and hit it hard enough that if it misses, it'll go somewhere between 6 and 12 inches beyond the hole. We've drawn one of my favorite shots here. This is a chip shot because it's uphill and it's a good lie, and you never play a pitch shot if a chip shot will work. So let's go at this with an 8-iron. The fact that this is a fairly steep uphill lie, even the 8-iron is going to propel the ball fairly high in the air. And it's my judgment that it can land safely on the green without overrunning the hole. Remember now, there are two grips in golf. One that's used for all shots except putting and chipping, and one that's used for putting and chipping. In this grip, my hands oppose each other a total of 90 degrees. The lower hand is 45 degrees back of the shaft. The upper hand is 45 degrees ahead. The arms are attached at a 45-degree angle. I then settle myself over the ball with the ball in the middle of my body with my weight off balance a little toward the front so that I strike the ball a slightly descending blow. Then with no wrist motion at all, I try to propel the ball on the green on the fly and let it run its way toward the hole. If I've got the right club and the right distance on the green, it will stop fairly close. Glenn, what club and what shot would you do for this ball?
I would use a 7-iron and chip and run it.
I think that's a wise decision, so let me have the 7-iron. However, we've placed another ball here that's approximately 3.5 feet in front of this one. And that's going to change this shot into a 6-iron. But let's try this one. Club selection is vital. In this case, I'm using the one lever stroke, ball in the center of the body, weight off balance toward the front foot, hitting the ball safely on the green like a spot boulder, and keeping the wrists out so that the ball will have no backspin, and let the ball hit on the green and run toward the hole. Now, this shot is exactly the same, but since it has to pitch a much shorter distance, then I want a club that's got a little less loft so it will cause the run to be a little greater in relationship to the distance that it's carried. And since that other club was the perfect one, I think this is the perfect one for this. If I hit it just safely on the green, it should stop close enough to the hole for one putt. And there's one thing I'd like to get on record right now. Anybody that puts it from this far off the green with a putter, and me putting it with the right club, I think I can beat him. Let's go at it mathematically for a second. If I carry a 3-iron 3 feet on an average speed of green, either uphill or downhill, it runs about 10 times as far as it carries. On the other hand, if I'm carrying the sand wedge on that same green, 3 feet, it runs about 1.5 as far as it carries. And yet you could say, well, why not pitch the sand wedge farther so it runs? That's drawing to inside straights in poker. We want you to hit the shot that has the least air time. If I'm that close to the edge of this green, I want my 4-iron, because the 4-iron on a fairly slow green will run the ball about 5 times as far as it carries. So I'm only going to carry it here. I don't want to hit it here. I want to carry it just safely on the green so that it becomes more and more accurate. The more it runs, the less hard you have to hit it, and the less hard you have to hit it, the more accurate it becomes. If the combination of two distances, distance on the fly and distance on the run, permits me to use a 5-iron or a 6-iron, I hold more of them in one than I take 3. But if the green is of average speed and level, the 3-iron will run the ball about 10 times as far as it carries. The 4-iron about 9 times as far as it carries. The 5-iron about 8 times as far as it carries. The 6-iron about 7 times as far as it carries. The 7-iron about 5 times as far as it carries. The 8-iron about 4 times as far as it carries. The 9-iron about 3 times as far as it carries. The pitching wedge about 2 times as far as it carries, and the sand wedge about equidistance or a fraction more than it carries. The putter will hit it straighter than the chip shot, no argument. But it's got to traverse through terrain that will negate that advantage. Certainly, if you don't know how to chip, putt it. But let's get so we know how to chip. Let's discuss some problems that we see in the chipping area every day. Glenn, loan me the 3-iron, please.
Why a 3-iron from here, Paul?
Because, Glenn, in this case, if I use a more lofted club than the 3-iron, I have to hit it farther in the green to make it run down to that flag that's 60 or 70 feet away from me on a green that's a little on the slow side. So in the case of the problems that we're going to discuss, so many students keep their weight too far back, and even if they made a good stroke, they scoop the ball and have it flop up in the air and come down like a wounded duck, and it doesn't run true on the ground. But if they were to take a less lofted club, keep the ball back far enough and their weight far enough forward, that they would automatically strike the ball a descending blow and make the ball go low on the green and run its way down to the hole. There's no sense in hitting the ball a mile up in the air when we've got enough room to let the ball skid its way down to the hole. Now let's discuss a very common fault in the chipping, and that is where the student, especially if the hole is that far away, wants to turn around and get a look at it. He wants to be looking at it almost as he hits it. The end result is that the swing's going to be going well to the left, even though he's set up to it fairly well. But as he hits this, because my shoulders are too open and way over here, he's making a stroke that causes the ball to go way over there, because he hasn't gotten his body in anything like the right position. The line across your hips, shoulders, thighs, toes, all want to remain the same. Let your weight go forward without opening up. Keep your shoulders in the right position so that when you make your swing through it, your swing goes in the direction you hope it will go. Incidentally, I was pretty well satisfied with the pattern of those shots in that last chip group. Now let's try one from a little shorter shot. In this case, I'm using an 8-iron, which is a little more lofted club, and I wanted to get this home to the audience, and that is that as the loft on the club increases, the ball should go a little farther back toward the back foot, and the weight should go a little farther toward the front foot, so that you are striking the ball with a little of a descending blow, letting it land safely on the green and trickle its way down to the hole. Most players in the shorter shots, where they're using a more lofted club, have a greater tendency to keep the ball too far forward and their weight too far back. So we want to get home clearly to them that as the loft on the face of the club increases, the ball wants to go a little farther back, keeping your body, everything at parallel and right angle, so that you're making a stroke that puts no side spin on the ball and as little back spin as possible. And you get that by keeping your wrists out of it and stroking it smoothly with your arms, letting the ball carry on the green and run its way down to the hole free of English. It does give a good result. Now a few suggestions about practice procedures for fun and games in chipping. I might add, to begin with, that most players should putt this, because it's only a foot to 18, 20 inches off the edge of the green, with the speed between the two grasses almost identical. They would get a better result with a putter because they're more accustomed to using it. But they must practice then with the chip shots until they are as comfortable with the chip shot as they would be with a putter, at which time they'll have a better result putting it with the lofted clubs instead of putting it with a putter. And here, I've got a 4-iron in my hand because the distance I'm going to hit the ball on the fly is only about 2 feet, and the green's a little on the slow side. So I've got a fairly straight face club that I think will stop the ball very close to the hole, hitting it that way. And the shorter I carry it on the fly and still have it reach the hole, the more accurate it's going to be. And I keep 20, 25 balls in my pile and keep doing this at that distance until my touch can just feel instinctively how far to go back and how far to go through it to make the ball get to the hole with a little to spare. And then if I've been practicing enough to get my directional control, I'm going to have considerably better than an average of 2 from shots of this distance. Now that's a fairly good grouping. The one shot was a little too bold. Then when you've practiced at this distance, you use the same technique where the flag is a little farther in the green. With you the same distance, you'd take a straighter face club. Or where the flag remains constant and you get a little farther off the edge of the green, you'd take a club with a little more loft. And then you go through the same practice procedure again. The technique is important, but you're not going to get the use you should out of it unless you practice. Practice, practice, practice for touch. Touch cannot be taught. You have to acquire that. We now know how to hit our putts and our chip shots with a one-lever stroke. We've talked about techniques that will make you a better short game player. We've looked at typical problems and we've learned how to cure them. Most importantly, we've learned how to practice for fun and profit. Have a wonderful time with your short game and your lower scores.
We hope you've enjoyed Paul Runyan's Short Way to Lowest Scoring. Now you can build your complete game with new videos from Golf Digest. They feature Bob Toski, Dean of the Golf Digest Schools, and schools-tested instruction that has worked for golfers worldwide since 1971. Each half-hour video cassette in this new Learning Library series focuses on a single aspect of your game. A swing for a lifetime shows you how to develop one and make it repeat. Find Your Own Fundamentals lets you build a solid foundation of pre-swing basics. In Driving for Distance, you'll master the keys to length and consistency on your tee shots. Sharpen Your Short Irons will make you a crisper 5 to 9 iron player. And Saving Par from Sand will help you get up and down from greenside bunkers. For more information, just complete and mail in the enclosed order warranty card or call our Golf Digest video toll-free number, 1-800-453-4005.